So Keir Starmer this morning set out his election pitch to the country. Obviously, we know this is a general election year. Rishi Sunak said earlier today that actually his working assumption is that the general election will be in the second part of this year. And Starmer's message was very much one of hope for a country in decline. I think he mentioned the word hope about 18 times. So this was very much what he was trying to say, that people need to get out and vote for the Labour Party, for a change party, and to deliver for what he wants the country to achieve.
A sense that nothing works, that we're going backwards, a country in decline. That's why next year, at the general election, there's something deeper and more visceral at stake than the usual competing arguments. I have no idea what they will say to justify 5 more years of this. But for the Labour Party, our job is to give Britain hope. Not the hope of the easy answer, the miracle cure, or the oven-ready deal. No, that's the road that got us into this mess. It's not the road out. We need a different hope, a realistic hope, a frank hope. A hope that levels with you about the hard road ahead, but that offers you an open hand and a clear destination, a sense of confidence, pride, a security in Britain's future, not just back within our grasp, but a purpose, a mission the whole country can work towards. That's what election must be about.
Yeah, he said that this election is more important than normal. It's an election of change. He referred to the Labour Party as a change party as well. We know that he's been working quite hard to change the party from the Corbyn years, and he has to an extent successfully done so. There haven't been many Labour MPs trying to rebel against the leadership, and he said that he's been working towards this for the past 4 years to get on getting the country back on track, trying to tilt the government back in the interests of working people. As I mentioned before, he said the word hope 18 times, but I think during the speech, it was a lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk about a project hope, a frank hope to deliver the opportunity to shape our country's future, resting in the voters' hands, but there wasn't actually any concrete policies on how he's going to achieve this.
But nonetheless, I do sense something profound has changed now. That political trust isn't just low, it's on the edge. Where, after the sex scandals, the expenses scandals, the waste scandals, the contracts for friends, even in a crisis like the pandemic, people now think politics is about naked self-enrichment.
Yeah, so Summer said that people are right to be anti-Westminster and right to be angry about what politics has become. I think there was a quite interesting question from the BBC's Chris Mason, where he said, you keep attacking Westminster, you say that you're anti-Westminster, but are you're actually, working towards becoming the leader possibly of the country and in charge of Westminster. So obviously, this is something that he said many times before. His attack on the pointless populist gestures, those have come many times in the past, especially when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister. Now with Rishi Sunak at the helm, obviously these attacks are not quite arriving with the same level. But that's why he's trying to present a very different alternative to the Conservative Party.
I firmly believe that communities can make better decisions about their future than politicians in Westminster. I believe the hoarding of power in London will always lead to an economy that also hoards potential. And that if we are privileged enough to win the next election, one of the great tasks of the next Labour government will be to take power and control out of our hands and place them in yours.
Well, of course, he said so. He said that there's too much power in Westminster, but he hasn't actually said exactly how he's planning to level up the country. It's easy to say, well, the Conservatives have failed to do this, but what's the alternative? And so far, especially from this speech, there was nice rhetoric, but again, no substance on how he's going to do that.
I've read that the Tories want to fight the election on this terrain, that they think their economic comfort zone still has some purchase. But let me tell you, what used to be their strength is now their weakness.
Yeah, so it was very interesting that he said that he wants to fight the next general election on the economy because Labour sees this as a potential weakness for the Tories, and obviously there has been quite a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks about potential tax cuts that Starmer might put as a manifesto pledge, unfreezing income tax thresholds. But then during the Q&A, he was actually not very clear on what he's going to do, whether he's going to unfreeze these thresholds. And then in a question that I asked him about the overall tax burden, because he says that he wants to lower the tax burden for working people, but what about the overall tax burden? Is he going to introduce new taxes? And he says that apart from what is already set out, so VAT on private schools, for instance, that he cannot see introducing more taxes. But again, the details was not there at all.
And finally, renewal. Because this can't be done with a few fixes, a policy tweak here and there. No, countries only come together, truly come together, behind ideas, a shared purpose, a national project for a better future.
Yeah, so throughout the speech, you could see that he's echoing maybe Tony Blair when he says things can only get better, offering this sense of hope to the country. And I think here, when he says he's also promising a politics that treads a little lighter on all our lives, is kind of, trying to appeal to Tory voters as well, saying that, they want less government, they don't want a nanny state. So it's very interesting that he's doing that. And I think that's very much, it was done with a purpose. Whether voters will, buy it, that's another question. I think he thinks he probably did very well, but he needs to show some flesh. It's not just he probably thinks he can win by default, but without actually presenting, without explaining to the country bold, clear, precise ways on how he's going to improve, people are probably not going to buy it. And how people will view the speech, I think there wasn't much there. As we said before, it was a lot of rhetoric, and especially with Rishi Sunak saying that there won't be almost ruling out a general election in May. That's going to be the main political coverage going into tomorrow. So far, it won't make the headlines probably.